Hello there. Thanks for tuning into my talk. My name is Rama, and I'm here to present my work in collaboration with Aditya, Vashistha, Rene, Kizilcec, and Nicola, Dell. This is a 10-minute presentation recorded as part of CSCW conference. If you're looking for the paper, please see details on how to download it at the end of the video. In last 5 years, feature-rich smartphones have become cheaper, readily available, and increasingly versatile, making them indispensable tools for teachers in their work within low-income settings. In fact, several studies have shown how smartphones have become daily drivers for several activities such as preparation, teaching, and administrative work. For example, they have looked at how teachers reconfigure their smartphone use to improve their work productivity or to compensate for the lack of pedagogical training and resources they should ideally receive from the schools. However, most of the prior research that looked at teachers' smartphone-enabled practices have overlooked the negative effects of such integration in teachers' work lives. This study aims to fill this gap by exploring how teachers' smartphone use impact their technostress at work in low-income schools. Traditionally, technostress has been defined as a specific type of stress that is experienced due to the use of information systems. It has been actively used as a theoretical construct in the field of organizational studies to understand the negative impact produced by technology-related work. The concept of technostress has been recently used in teacher education within Global North to understand how different technologies such as laptops, tablets, and smart classrooms are contributing to negative effects in teachers' work as well as their personal lives. In contrast, there is lack of understanding on how technology practices produce technostress in teachers within Global South. This is especially important in low-income communities because teachers almost always have to rely on smartphones as their only piece of assistive technology at work. Moreover, the same smartphones are also entertainment devices in their personal lives that are shared by other members of the family as well. So to answer our research question, we collaborated with two large educational organizations that served low-income communities. First organization was a government residential school society. These schools provided free education for children of low-income individuals. All the schools under the organizations were overseen by a common management that spanned across different layers. Second, this organization was a consortium of 240 low-income private schools. Schools under these organizations have their own higher management and operate autonomously with a common aim to provide affordable education to low-income communities. For the first part of the study, we conducted a total of 70 semi-structured interviews. In particular, we reached out to the heads of both the organizations to advertise the opportunity in all the schools from grade 6 to grade 10. Interviews were conducted in multiple local languages. All the data was coded and analyzed using thematic analysis and validated using peer debriefing and prolonged engagement with the data. Overall, our findings in the paper provide an in-depth understanding of how different aspects of technostress emerged from different smartphone integrated practices around four major work dimensions. That is preparation, teaching, administration, and interaction with peers as well as parents. We also show how technostress from different work practices regularly contributed to this feeling of burnout among teachers. For the sake of brevity, I'll cover two important findings from preparation and teaching activities, which are shown on the left. Schools under private consortium enforced a no smartphone policy at school. This rule meant that teachers had to deposit their phones with senior teachers, who were also called in charges, and could only take it back once the school was over. The in charge was also responsible to enforce the policy by constantly monitoring their peers in person. The teachers who violated the rule were publicly reprimanded through speakers installed in the school. Higher management also repurposed cameras that were installed for security purpose to surveil whether teachers were using smartphones in their classrooms. Using such mass surveillance tools contributed to teachers feeling increased anxiety because many teachers genuinely used their phones to augment their teaching practices within classroom. Such teachers felt a constant sense of techno uncertainty, a type of technostress that arises when an individual feels using technology could result in negative outcomes in their jobs. Some teachers try to cope with these surveillance practices by risking their jobs and sitting in camera's blind spot and looking for days on which in charge was on leave so that they could teach with their smartphones freely. Schools under government society took a different approach. Unlike private schools that banned the use of smartphone, government schools leverage smartphones to encourage self-surveillance practices to keep better tabs at teacher. Higher management frequently required teachers to submit proofs of their work by taking videos and photos and sharing it in official WhatsApp groups. It was a common practice for teachers to submit around 6 to 10 proofs of such proofs on WhatsApp groups. Part-time teachers who were sharing part-time teachers who were also shared resources among different schools had to switch on their live location on WhatsApp to prove that they were working in the required school and were not taking any holiday or skipping classes. When asked, management categorized such surveillance practices as a form of care that they had to take to ensure that teachers were being innovative and productive during their work hours. Teachers, on the other hand, were constantly stressed with this constant expectation of excessive accountability as it diverted them from their real responsibility of teaching or preparation or upgrading themselves with professional development, contributing to burnout. To corroborate of qualitative findings and make the relationship between teachers and teacher smartphone use their experience of technostress and overall feeling of burnout in their work, we conducted a large-scale survey across both private and government schools. The survey asked teachers their perceived usage of phone for work, their perceived feeling of technology-related stress, their overall feeling of burnout, and the overall sense of support they received in such situations. The most relevant analysis to this presentation showed that smartphone use for work was a significant predictor of burnout among teachers. Moreover, technostress fully mediated the relationship between smartphone use and burnout. In fact, it accounted to 68% of the relationship when controlled for gender, age, and school time. In other words, technostress provided a major explanation of how teachers' smartphone use predicted burnout frequency. The paper covers a few more moderation models in greater detail. Overall, our findings present a concerning picture that contradicts general techno-optimism that prior studies have associated with smartphones in HCI 4D settings. In our paper, we closely examine these concerns by contextualizing and expanding the notion of technostress and mapping them to teachers' technology practices. We also focus on various ethical dilemmas that resulted from such practices. We then provide an in-depth understanding of how these practices can impact future working conditions in the form of COVID by examining current policies. Lastly, we end by providing different design recommendations that can greatly improve currently overburdened and burnt out teaching workforce. While I have barely scratched the surface of our study, I would highly encourage viewers to download the paper from the link on the top left to know more. Thank you for providing this opportunity.